I'm Nick Payton-Walsh in Odessa, and this is CNN.
Be not afraid. To the brave Ukrainian people, showing that their power of many is greater than the will of any one dictator.
It is chaos. We're in a situation. Communications aren't great. We're in the middle of a war zone. The mayor is urging people to take shelter. They're urging people to stay in their homes. And if you're in this neighborhood, to get out of this neighborhood.
This is Przemysl Station, where so many of those refugees that have moved on to Warsaw and that President Biden has just been speaking to come through.
The notorious Wagner Group, a brutal force believed to be linked to the Kremlin.
What is their objective, do you think, in Ukraine right now?
They wanted to assassinate the leadership of Ukraine, our president and prime minister.
He's killing us and our children, and we truly need help. So we're asking for more weapons in order to be able to save ourselves and the world.
We will continue fighting for our land, whatever the cost. We will not give up, and we will not lose.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Saturday night for our continuing special coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I'm Pamela Brown in Washington.
And in western Ukraine, I'm Don Lemon, live in Lviv. President Biden is traveling home from Poland at this hour after delivering a Reagan-esque Cold War smackdown of Russian leader Vladimir Putin and his unprovoked attack on neighboring Ukraine. Listen to the blistering indictment he delivered this afternoon in Warsaw.
A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never erase a people's love for liberty. Brutality will never grind down their will to be free. Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
The White House scrambling to walk back the president's unscripted comment saying that he was not calling for regime change in Russia. President Biden also warning Russia to stay out of Poland and all NATO countries on a day that Russian missiles exploded just an hour's drive from the Polish border. This is a fuel depot being struck here in Lviv in western Ukraine, and this is the aftermath. Remarkably, no deaths are reported, even though it's in a residential area. I was there on the scene, and we're going to come back to that in just a few minutes here on CNN Live from Lviv. Now a reminder of the heartbreaking toll of Russia's unprovoked attack on a sovereign nation. This afternoon, Ukrainian officials say at least 136 children have been killed in the invasion and 199 injured. As with most official reports, the true numbers are almost certainly higher than that. We're going to begin this hour, though, at the White House in Washington, D.C., and that's where CNN's Arlette Saenz joins us. Arlette, the White House was quick to walk back the president's comments that Putin cannot remain in power. Are they saying that he overreached here? What are they saying?
Well, Don, those comments from President Biden really marked a significant escalation in rhetoric against Russian President Vladimir Putin at a time when the Biden administration has really been walking a very fine line when it comes to the idea of regime change. Top U.S. officials recently have been saying that their goal is not to remove Putin from power, but with just 9 words, President Biden went completely off script, and the White House scrambled to try to clarify, saying that the president simply meant that Putin should not be able to exert power over his neighbors or the region. But the Russian government did respond, a spokesperson saying that ultimately that's a decision that is not up to Biden, but it is one that is up to the Russian people. Now, these remarks from the president came at the end of his European trip, where he was speaking in Poland, which is a NATO ally that is neighboring Ukraine. And President Biden sent a very stern warning to Putin, telling him not to get involved or move into any of the NATO countries, or else there would be consequences. Take a listen.
Don't even think about moving on 1 single inch of NATO territory. We have sacred obligation We have a sacred obligation under Article 5 to defend each and every inch of NATO territory with the full force of our collective power.
Now, President Biden is traveling back right now on Air Force One, and the White House is clearly aware that even though the trip is complete, the work is not done, as they are hoping to put an end to this war and further punish Vladimir Putin. Don?
Arlette, let's a question for you. There are 2 million Ukrainian refugees in Poland, and today President Biden met with some of them. Can you tell us about that encounter?
Yeah, the president spent some time at a soccer stadium where refugees had assembled. Really his first opportunity to see face to face the plight of so many refugees that have poured into Poland, 2 million heading into Poland from Ukraine. He was speaking with one woman through a translator who told him that she was there with her daughter, but her husband and son remained in Ukraine to fight. And she told Biden about Putin through a translator. She said, "We Ukrainian mothers are ready to strangle him with our bare hands." President Biden also had a very touching moment with another young girl and her family. Take a listen to a bit of what they talked about.
I don't speak Ukrainian, but tell her I want to take her home.
This way, Mr. President.
Well, you're all brave, brave, brave.
Let's get out.
And shortly after that, President Biden was asked what he thought about Putin after seeing those refugees and what they are enduring. The president was blunt, saying that Putin is a butcher. He was very clearly moved by his experience speaking with those refugees and all that they've gone through since this battle in Ukraine began. Don?
Yeah, more harsh language from President Biden about the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin. Thank you, Arlette Saenz in the White House tonight. We appreciate that. Ukraine's president is issuing a new plea asking for just 1% of NATO's arsenal, especially tanks and planes. He says his country's democracy may not survive without them. Here's what he had to say in the latest national address.
Ukraine cannot shoot down Russian missiles using shotguns, machine guns, which are too much in supplies. It is impossible to unblock Mariupol without a sufficient number of tanks, other armored vehicles, and of course, aircraft. All defenders of Ukraine know that. All defenders of Mariupol know that. Thousands of people know that. Citizens, civilians who are dying there in the blockade. The United States knows that. All European politicians know. We told everyone, and this should be known as soon as possible by as many people on Earth as possible, so that everyone understands who and why was simply afraid to prevent this tragedy.
Zelensky says his government has been waiting 31 days for NATO to provide greater firepower. Now, let's go back to that Russian missile strike on a fuel storage facility here in Lviv. My team and I were among the first news crews to arrive on the scene and bring those images to CNN viewers around the world. Here's what it looked like and sounded like. You could hear the flames roaring, and what they're concerned about is another one of these tanks exploding, so they're pushing people back until they can get control of this blaze. You were mentioning how close it is to a neighborhood. It's really close to a neighborhood. It's on the other side. There's a little valley in here on the other side of a retention wall. But Peter, if you can just go around just a little bit and show them how close this is to a neighborhood, we'll quickly, and then we'll get back on the flame. So it's really, really close. This is a neighborhood where everyone has gathered, all of the rescue people, and they've done this on a number of different streets. So if you'll come back here. So we're, I guess, within a tenth of a mile or so from where this is happening. But again, look at those flames. They're just roaring, black smoke coming out of there, and you can see them putting the fire retardant, spraying the fire retardant on this. But again, as you said, it is a chaotic scene. They're running fire hoses through this residential neighborhood, this retention wall, and then to the other side of that valley in tanks. Think of it as you will, for those of you who live near a chemical plant, you see these large round storage facilities that carry either fuel or grain or what have you. That is what is happening here. This is a fuel storage facility northeast of the city. Again, we're told it's not anywhere near where that blast went off just a couple of weeks ago when they hit that airplane repair facility. So just to give you an idea, to fully grasp how abruptly Ukraine was thrust into this war, consider this. Just 6 weeks ago, Ukraine's emergency responders were handling car accidents and house fires. Today, it can be a raging inferno like the bombed fuel depot we just saw, or bullet wounds and shrapnel injuries. The casualties of war here. And today's responders are not just Ukrainians answering the call to duty. CNN's Ed Lavandera rode along with one of those foreign volunteers.
Pamela and Don, at any given moment across Ukraine, there are countless people on the streets doing whatever they can to help in the war effort. So when missile strikes happen near a populated area like we saw on Saturday in Lviv, that sends shivers down the spines of all those people trying to help. The air raid sirens no longer startled Diedrich Gunnestad.
The sirens are telling us it's no danger anymore.
With that, he eases the nerves of a mother and her 2 children he's just picked up at the train station. Tonight, he will drive them to Poland. Diedrich Gunnestad struggles to explain how a 27-year-old from Norway has found himself driving an ambulance through the streets of Lviv.
That's the most difficult question, actually.
He's part of a volunteer team evacuating critically ill hospital patients and refugees from Ukraine.
I just wanted to help, do something, not sit at home and just look at everything on the TV.
Most days, Diedrich drives into Lviv from Poland with an ambulance full of medical supplies and distributes the loads to hospitals facing grave shortages. Zorana Ivanyuk is the medical director of the St. Nicholas Hospital in Lviv. She says since the start of the war, her hospital has been overwhelmed treating everyday seriously ill patients.
He brings us some medicines, some equipment, which we need so much. That's why we are thankful for him and his team. It's really dream team.
Hospitals are struggling to handle all the patients needing critical life-saving care. That's where Diedrich's team comes in.
We have just delivered a lot of equipment to that hospital and to another hospital. We went to the train station and picked up a few refugees as well.
He's lost count of how many patients and refugees he's driven out of Ukraine.
I have helped a lot of kids, women and children who needs to go out of the country. And in the places we are getting the people, they don't have anyone else. For right now, they only have us.
Diedrich and his team of paramedics and nurses have spent almost 3 weeks crisscrossing the city, answering any call for help that comes in. How stressful is it to drive around Ukraine right now?
Oh my God. It's horrific, and it's not possible to explain.
This area of western Ukraine has seen just a few Russian airstrikes since the war started nearly a month ago. But Russian forces have targeted hospitals and civilians in eastern Ukraine. Diedrich knows he's driving into potential targets. It's a risk he's willing to take. Is doing this worth dying for you?
Yeah, it is. Because it's so meaningful what I'm doing. When I see these crying children who are really sick and needs to get out, I feel a responsibility.
For Diedrich Gunnestad, it feels like the road to saving Ukrainians goes on forever. I spoke with Diedrich just moments after that explosion happened in Lviv on Saturday, and he told me that he happened to have 3 patients in the back of his ambulance at that very moment, that they weren't too far away from where the explosion detonated. He says it took him a little while to figure out exactly what the sound was and where it was coming from, but as soon as they put it all together, they stopped everything and started driving straight to the Polish-Ukrainian border. And he tells me that they all made it across safely late Saturday afternoon, and in his eyes, it's 3 more people that he's been able to evacuate safely out of this war-torn country. Pamela and Don.
Thanks for that, Ed. We're following breaking news this hour on the death of Rock Hall of Fame drummer Taylor Hawkins. He died Friday at the age of 50. A preliminary urine toxicology report just released from the Colombian Attorney General's office says 10 substances were found in the musician's system, including THC, antidepressants, and opioids. Authorities are still investigating and will soon release a report. Earlier, CNN's Chloe Malas spoke to Tom Calderon, a close friend of the Foo Fighters' famous drummer.
My recollection with Taylor is simply one word. It's just joy. You know, there are people smarter than me that can talk about what a great technique drummer he was and everything. But when you're behind the drum kit, it's hard to be a rock star, but he was a rock star. And he was one of those guys that just people 8 to 80 would just smile when they saw him.
Only days before his death, Hawkins made a 9-year-old drummer's night when he came down from his hotel in Paraguay to meet her. Emma Sophia was playing outside his hotel and impressed Hawkins with her skills. Well, he found her in the crowd and took this picture you see right here. Well, here's what else we have for you this hour. The mercenaries known as Putin's private army tasked with killing the Ukrainian president. It is just unbelievable. Reporting from our David McKenzie coming up next. Also ahead, Don speaks to Chef Jose Andres as his nonprofit helps feed the huge influx of Ukrainian refugees. You're in the CNN Newsroom.
The best of humanity, unfortunately, shows up in the worst moments of humanity.
Business never sleeps. As the sun sets in Seoul and Shanghai, deals are signed in Dubai, and Europe is already in play. New York prepares to make its first move. I'm Julia Chatterley, journalist, global market analyst, and host of CNN's First Move. Join me in the financial capital of the world for a market-moving perspective on the news influencing global politics, culture, and finance. I'll speak to newsmakers, risk takers, and the ultimate game changers.
Bold moves, big deals, winning trades. It's all right here. Make CNN your first move.
First Move with Julia Chatterley. Weekdays on CNN. Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story takes us.
I'm Becky Anderson in Tehran. We are in Jerusalem.
Real news that shapes our world. Exploring not just what's going on, but why.
I just want to press you on one further point.
Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few of us get to see. Observing countries on the move, still rooted in tradition. It all starts starts here, and that's why we're here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson, Monday through Friday on CNN.
My message to the people of Ukraine is a message I delivered today to Ukraine's Foreign Minister and Defense Minister, who I believe are here tonight. We stand with you. Period.
President Biden earlier today and his commitment of solidarity to Ukraine. But for some people, those words ring hollow. Inna Sovsun of the Ukrainian parliament tweeted, "I'll be blunt. I did not hear a single word from POTUS that would make me, as Ukrainian, feel reassured that the West will help us more than they are doing right now, which is not enough. I am happy," he reassured Poland, "but the bombs are exploding in Kyiv and Kharkiv, not in Warsaw." Anna joins me now from Ukraine. Hi, thank you for your time tonight. So, given what you tweeted, what were you hoping to hear from President Biden?
Well, I wanted to hear some concrete action, some steps that will be taken to help us here in this war. Again, I don't mean to sound ungrateful. We actually appreciate a lot the help that we have been receiving. But we need, unfortunately, we need more. We need more weapons in order to be able to protect our skies. We need those fighter jets. And we really did have hope that President Biden visiting Poland will actually result in a solution to this mix that we have been asking for weeks from the beginning of the war. We were hoping that there will be some clearer message about the weapon that we are asking for being delivered to Ukraine. There was a strong message that United States will react if Putin tries to go into Poland. But we didn't hear reassurances that it will happen the same if any further developments take place here in Ukraine. So I'm sorry, Ukraine was very hopeful with President Biden visiting Poland. But after the visit and after the speech, I did follow the social media, I did follow the posts by other people, and the general reaction was that of disappointment, unfortunately.
Disappointment. President Biden indicated that he wanted to go to Ukraine. He couldn't because of obviously national security reasons. Would that have helped?
Well, what would have helped are the fighter jets. What would have helped us, given us artillery. What would have helped is given us air defense system. That would create security not just for President Biden's visit, who is very much welcome here in Ukraine, but for all of us here in Ukraine. So that is what we're asking for. We're not asking for NATO troops on the ground, but we are asking for helping us and give us the fighting chance to win against Putin. Because what President Biden did very good in his speech, he did explain how Putin is a threat not just to Ukraine, but actually to the whole world, to the ideas of democracy, of respect of human rights and human dignity. And then if he raises this issue to this level, we expected that the response would also be, higher. That the response will not be laying simply on our shoulders as it is right now, because Putin is indeed a threat to all of us. But we expected that the whole world, recognizing this, will actually step in to help us fight against this evil.
And I can't imagine what it's like to be in your shoes right now in Ukraine and constantly worried about being bombed by the Russians. But so far, I think $200 million in security assistance has already been delivered, 800 million more on the way, including, Stingers and anti-tank equipment, that kind of thing. So what do you say to those who say, look, the U.S. is already doing so much and that the U.S. doesn't want to get to a point where it could cross that line and escalate things with Putin and create an even bigger, broader, worse situation?
Well, first of all, at the beginning of the World War II, there were people who were saying that we should not escalate with Hitler and we should really make a deal with him. What is important, scary, but important to understand is that appeasement never works with a dictator the level of Hitler, and that is Putin nowadays. You have to remember that Ukraine did nothing to provoke this war on us. We were never a threat to Putin. yet he came up with a reason to attack us. In the same manner, unfortunately, he can come up with a reason to attack Poland or the Baltic states or Finland, for instance, who is not a NATO member. Putin does not really need a real reason. In his psychotic brain, he can come up with a reason. And he will keep on coming up with reasons when he keeps on hearing from the West that they do not want to escalate. Because for Putin, this claim that we do not want to escalate is a sign that no one will intervene and he can go further. I'm unfortunately absolutely sure that if the sanctions that we are seeing today were imposed in 2014, when Putin attacked Ukraine, annexed Crimea, started the war in Donbass, if those sanctions that we're having now, which are tough, truly tough, if they were introduced in 2014, we wouldn't have had this war upon us right now. So unfortunately, the West is always trying not to escalate with Putin, but every time Putin reads that as a sign that he can escalate himself. So unfortunately now this level of escalation is killing hundreds of Ukrainians daily. And in order to be able to save them, we are doing everything we can, the best we can, with the Stingers, with the other weapons that we have been receiving. But in order to save people in Mariupol, we need more. We need longer range weapons to fight against Russian artillery that is constantly shelling 300,000 people still left in Mariupol. We need more armored vehicles, we need fighter jets. We so much need those fighter jets. This is not something we came up with randomly. This is something that could be saving lives here. We need those fighter jets not in order to involve NATO states in a fight with Russia. We need those fighter jets so that we can stop Putin from killing our civilians every single day for mere humanitarian reasons. And we are extremely disappointed that Poland was saying that they are ready to give those MiG jets. The United States said that they were ready to give us those MiG jets, but we still don't have them for some reason, which we truly do not understand. And those jets could have been saving lives here for weeks already if we got them earlier.
Anna, thank you. I know it's 4:26 a.m. in Ukraine. You must be unbelievably exhausted, just what you've gone through the past month, and we really appreciate you being up at this hour to talk with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Don?
Pamela, I'm glad you pointed that out because daylight saving time just hit here in Ukraine. It was all of a sudden it was 2. It went from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We lost an hour, so we just sprung forward here. So
you must be exhausted too,
Don. We'll be
Don.
done early morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially
and
after the day
hour,
you had.
So
I mean,
all of it working. Yeah.
You've been out reporting all day. You were covering the strike there at the gas depot.
Yeah.
Now here you are overnight anchoring. So
Yeah.
thank you for all your hard work.
I can't complain though. Yeah, thank you. I can't complain. It's been an honor to be here to cover and get the information out, and that's why we're here. So as long as it takes and however long the hours are, we'll take it, and we're going to continue to do it. Up next, CNN looks into the team of mercenaries known as Putin's private army, what we've learned about their alleged mission here in Ukraine.
They wanted to assassinate the leadership of Ukraine, our president and prime minister. So that was the goal.
Out front tonight, a potential breakthrough in treating coronavirus.
We've gotten very little help from the federal government.
Could all this spending lead to a bigger economic crisis? One of our viewers saw you last night on the show. She says she's going to pay your rent this month. Shut up. I want to go now to an incredible story of survival. Would you do it all again in terms of being a nurse, knowing that that could put you at risk for this?
I want to help people more than I ever have.
Aaron Burnett out front on CNN. This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
My name's Jim Brailsford, and I lead the industry and solutions marketing team for Kinaxis. It's absolutely key that businesses incorporate sustainability into their business models. Firstly, you have got the corporate objective and being a good global citizen. You've also got the need to be reflecting that to your public, to your consumers, to show that you are actually being environmentally conscious. And also, as supply chains are more mature and are considering all of these things in a holistic way, it develops a sort of a steadiness to their operation. Supply chain sustainability will become a qualifier. It will not necessarily be the winner, but it'll become a qualifier enabling you to participate in the competition.
This is the result of one single blast.
3.3 million Ukrainians have now fled this country.
You don't have to go far to find a family who has been displaced.
We just heard an air raid siren ring out.
We run down for cover. It is hard to imagine life returning here.
In Kiev, Dnipro,
Poland.
This is CNN.
Today we live in an unpredictable environment and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
Our engine continues, our impetus, our momentum.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers. Give me the facts on voter fraud.
There has never been a moment where voter fraud has affected the outcome of an election.
And we also dive below the headlines to explore vital issues impacting our lives.
Normally this theatre would be filled with people and art and debate and energy. And so now we have to rely on the two of us.
How interesting is it to be Tyler Mitchell today? It's crucial we make sense of what's happening. There seems to be some confusion that maybe you can clear up. Where are the US forces in Syria going? And fully understand what's at stake.
What's happening now in the world is a great thing because people are talking about subjects they never did before.
Aman Pour, weeknights on CNN.
I'm Larry Madowo in Kilifi, Kenya, and this is CNN.
Americans and other foreigners have answered the call to arms here in Ukraine, saying the defense of democracy transcends national borders. But Ukrainian officials say the conflict has also drawn from the dark side ruthless mercenaries known as Putin's private army, who are on a mission to assassinate the country's leader. CNN's David McKenzie explains.
A Russian mercenary takes a selfie video in Syria. It's a recruitment-style pitch, allegedly for the notorious Wagner Group, a brutal force believed to be linked to the Kremlin. In the shadows of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a senior Ukrainian defense official tells us that Wagner contractors were in the country and had a very specific mission.
What is their objective, do you think, in Ukraine right now?
They wanted to assassinate the leadership of Ukraine, our president and prime minister. So that was the goal, and a couple of groups, a couple of people were sent to Ukraine without any success.
I am here. We are not putting down arms.
The primary target, he says, President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine's military says documentary evidence gathered by intelligence officials and special forces outlines their alleged mission. He says several Wagner operatives have been eliminated, identified by their unique dog tags. CNN couldn't independently corroborate the account.
We need to find all these people, and they need to go to the court. They are absolutely illegal.
Wagner contractors surfaced in eastern Ukraine in 2014, exposed by research groups and CNN investigations. Their operations span the Middle East and Africa. US officials accuse Wagner of multiple human rights abuses in multiple countries. In this disturbing 2017 video, investigated by CNN, Wagner mercenaries appear to be torturing and murdering a Syrian man as they make jokes. The Kremlin said the incident had nothing to do with the Russian military operations in Syria, and they've repeatedly denied any links to Wagner. US officials say that Wagner was started by this man, Dmitry Utkin, a veteran of the Chechen conflict. and allegedly bankrolled by businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin, an oligarch so close to Russia's leader he's nicknamed Putin's chef. Under multiple US sanctions, Prigozhin denies any involvement in Wagner.
They want blood, they want to fight.
But this senior researcher at the Dossier Center says Wagner is Putin's private army. We agreed to hide their identity for their safety. They've spent years investigating Wagner's links to the Kremlin.
They operate without any law, without any rules. They can do whatever, in a way, whatever they want. Then when there is a call to MOD or there is a call to Mr. Putin, what your guys are doing in this particular country, the response will be, these are individuals, they have no link to the Kremlin.
Голова офісу президента тут, прем'єр-міністр Шмигаль тут.
Despite the invasion and new allegations of an assassination plot, Ukraine's president says he isn't going anywhere. David McKenzie, CNN London.
All right.
All right,
Thank
David,
you so much.
thank you very much.
Oh, go ahead. I'll take it from here, Don, here in Washington, but we'll be back with you shortly. I want to bring in national security expert Jason Beardsley. He is the National Executive Director for the Association of the U.S. Navy and former U.S. Army Special Operations. Hi, Jason. So I'm curious what you think. After a month of fighting, which side do you think is winning?
Well, this is, Pamela, been a very interesting conflict. We've seen from the beginning that the Ukrainian forces have just outmaneuvered, outgunned, and out-tacticked the Russian military. The Russian military also, by the way, has slowed down. They've got a lot of desertions. Their morale looks low. They attacked in the spring. There's a lot of mud, so the tanks are stuck on the road. Their tires look like they're in poor conditions. You've seen great reporting from a lot of internet sleuths that have really showed us what kind of problems the logistics supplies of the Russian forces were facing. So on top of all that, they are offending in a defensive situation, or Ukraine is defending, where the Russians are offending, which is so much tougher. It's really about a 3-to-1 ratio if you're going to attack a defensive place. Not only that, but they're losing this game on fuel, food, comfort, and tactics all around. So it's been a pretty interesting story, but you had the parliament member on earlier, the Rada member, and she makes a great point. Ukraine right now needs supplies.
So I don't know what happened
Yes.
there with the audio because I can't hear anything.
Okay.
All right, Jason,
Let me
so
know.
sorry I can't hear you anymore. But I'm just curious. I'll ask you one more question, then we'll try to work out this situation here. But I'm just wondering, you talk about all the things that the Ukrainians have in their favor. And one thing, too, is will, right? I mean, you've got experience as a soldier on the ground. The Ukrainians are fighting on their home turf, and I'm just wondering how much you think that works in their favor, that they have something to fight for.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Number one, the will is everything. It helps momentum. It's going to fuel this resistance, the esprit de corps, as they say. And the Russians, on the other hand, do not have that will. Their morale is low. They're relying on conscripts and minorities that are not treated like Russians. So the spirit of the Ukrainians is part of why you're seeing their successes on the ground. And I think it was said once by Ronald Reagan that no weapon in any arsenal in the world can match the will of a free people's fighting to defend their homeland. That's what we're seeing here. It's fairly interesting. But again, Ukraine now needs to break the siege mentality in Mariupol and Chernihiv. And the way to do that is with counterattacks, guerrilla type movements. They're going to have to reconnoiter those positions, and at night or in small numbers, use drones, use javelins, use stingers to knock out those artillery pieces. This is their best shot at getting through this next week or 2 weeks.
All right. Jason Beardsley, thank you very much. We really do appreciate that. So President Biden with a special shout out today for Chef Jose Andres and all the work that he is doing to feed Ukrainians. Just before we go to break, Chef Jose Andres just showed up here on the set. There he is. We're going to talk to him about his visit today with the president at the border in Poland. We'll be back live right after this.
Hey, I'm Anderson Cooper. I'm excited to let you know that my digital show Full Circle is back. You can watch every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, 6 p.m. live Eastern Time or anytime on demand. And to make sure you never miss a show, you can get alerts on every episode via the CNN app. I'll see you then.
Protein is great for building muscle, and it benefits your hair and nails too. But while meats are a great source of protein, research suggests that replacing red meat with plant protein could help you live longer. Beans and lentils can be a start. They're rich in plant protein plus fiber, B vitamins, iron, and folate. Most beans are also low in fat. Plant-based sources of protein also include nuts and seeds. Try stocking up on almonds, pistachios, cashews, and walnuts. Whole grains like oats, buckwheat, and brown rice are also good sources of protein. And you might assume that all fruits and vegetables contain less protein than other plant-based foods, but protein accounts for about a third of the calories in Brussels sprouts, broccoli, asparagus, and artichokes.
You can help the refugees from Ukraine. Join the over 70,000 who've already raised millions for food, shelter, and more. Explore CNN.com/impact. Click to take action.
This is CNN.
So President Biden met with world-renowned chef Jose Andres today at the World Central Kitchen food distribution site. Biden shared a few words about the chef and his work to help feed Ukrainians.
I also want to thank my friend, the great American chef, Jose Andres, and his team for help feeding those who are yearning to be free.
So Chef Andres is here with me now in Lviv. I'll just call you Jose. Good to see you. Thank you. We saw you earlier this week. We had planned to run our story about what we did with you, but you showed up here live on set, and we're so happy that you're here. Talk to me. What stood out to you about the visit today with the president in Poland, in Warsaw?
I think empathy. He's a president of empathy, listens. I saw him talking to many Ukrainian families, mainly women with children, and he was just listening to them. Yeah. And I think this makes President Biden a very unique leader in this moment.
What do they think? They had to be impressed with the operation, how many people you're feeding. You said it's up to a couple 100,000 meals per day, right?
Yeah, we are almost on the 300,000 mark right now. You know, we are over 1,000 distribution points every day. Again, 6 countries, almost in every single border crossing in multiple places inside Ukraine, in more than 21 cities, already with a lot of food being deployed over the last couple of weeks in Odessa, in many cities, sending, using the trains. Obviously, they are helping us with trains, so we're able to send food to Kiev, just making sure that everybody will be fed in the wars, preparing for the wars and hoping for the best.
Well, Chef, you know, he met with the people there. He talked about the children being there and the mothers being there. I mean, it's really extraordinary to see the operation that's happening and all the people who are displaced. I know that you do this, you say immediately, right? There's very little red tape when it comes to what you're doing. Very little bureaucracy. Did you talk to the president about getting food and supplies to the people quickly the way that you're doing? Did you offer him some suggestions? And
no, I think he's all hands-on. Obviously, he's been very interested in what we do, but what everybody else does. I was able to share with the president and the president of Poland and the prime minister how amazing, for example, the people of Poland were in the early 48 hours after the war began and Ukrainians were leaving. How everybody was hands-on, just doing whatever they had to do to take care, in this case, of the people living Ukraine. So I think this is an all-hands operation right now in Ukraine. Everybody is very involved in making sure that we are taking care of, as men are defending the country, men and women defending the country, everybody else making sure that we take care of those women, those elderly, those children, that they need all the support we can give them.
Yeah, listen, I know that you're going to say you're not a policymaker, you're not an expert on policy. You said you're a cook. Right? We called you a world-renowned chef. He was very uncomfortable with that world-renowned chef. But you were there and you heard the president's speech, and some people were surprised by him saying, "Hey, Putin shouldn't be in power anymore, or can't be in power anymore." How did that strike you?
Well, I think we have a president that speaks his mind, and I think he speaks the mind of the vast majority of the American people. I think we all agree that we don't have in the 21st century space for people that only think about themselves. I think America, more than ever, that we, the people, means not something only for Americans, but means something for Ukrainians. And I have a feeling right now, everybody agrees that we, the people, is what are going to be changing the world. We cannot be silent when things like what we are seeing happen. We cannot be silent when children are dying by bombs that are dropped in theaters, when they are trying to escape from the horrors of war, when on a bread, in a bakery, people waiting in line, not to buy bread, but to buy the only food maybe they are eating that day, that somebody goes and bombs them. President Biden, I do believe he is right that people like Putin cannot be in power in the 21st century.
Yeah, because of the horrors that he's committed with children. I was not surprised. I thought it was a very strong statement, but again, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not an expert on diplomacy, but I think it's a sentiment for most of the world. Maybe some people in Russia, but it's the sentiment of most of the world that what Putin is doing is horrible, and it would be better for the world if he were not in power and dropping bombs on innocent people, especially children. I just have to talk about what we have been seeing and what we witnessed with you. We met two young ladies who didn't know each other, who took a kindergarten, right, and turned it into a shelter for 200 people. They didn't know each other. They met through social media. And there are so many stories of people like that all over this region getting together, didn't know each other, to help displaced people, to help people eat and have a place to live.
Shelters like this, they've been popping up, obviously, all across, especially here in Ukraine and in places like where we are, in Lviv. We saw firsthand that people don't want to leave if they can Ukraine. They want to be in their country, especially because very often you have families, women, where their loved ones, their husbands are
on the front lines fighting.
In the front lines, and they tell you, I need to be as close as I can from my husband. Yeah. If something happens, I need to be nearby. It's stories like this that, it's no movie anymore. It's real. It's happening. And people suffer every single day. So those shelters, especially the one we were able to visit, kindergarten, was kind of amazing to see, because you see children laughing, eating cake, singing songs. For a second seems nothing wrong is going on, until all of a sudden you may hear the sirens and maybe a missile or a bomb is dropping.
We witnessed that missile and a bomb today. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
Thank you. The good work that you and your organization and all your people here are doing, and we appreciated seeing you with the president. Glad you got some acknowledgement for that today.
Thank you for having
Chef
me.
Jose Andres, thank you. Thank you. Humanitarian Jose Andres. Thank you. We'll be right back, everyone.
In a special ongoing season of the Tug of War podcast, CNN reporters are on the ground in Ukraine, documenting Russia's invasion, the escalating conflict, and what it means for the rest of the world. Tug of War. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
No one voice is better or more important than another. We need everybody. One of the things that we always say is that we want to tell the world that slavery still exists, but in order to do that, we need everybody to tell their world. My name is Jenny Brown, and I'm the campaign director of the End It movement. Shine a Light on Slavery Day is a day that we pick each year. It's typically in the month of February, and it's a time for us to really own the conversation for freedom. We ask everybody to join with us by drawing a red X on their hand, or putting a pin on, or some apparel, whatever's appropriate, and then posting about it on social media, and just going about your day having conversations to let people know that slavery still exists. We have heard story after story of lawmakers hearing about it because they saw a bunch of pictures on social media of people with red X's and wanted to learn more. And it caused them to want to do things like creating global funds that made resources and funding available for different partners around the world. On Shine a Light on Slavery Day, we really hope to see people from all walks of life, from celebrities and influencers and professional athletes to politicians to soccer moms and college students. We feel like this really is just a human issue, and it's going to take everybody on board across the world in order to make a dent and to really truly bring freedom to the 40 million men, women, and children trapped in slavery around the world today.
The Seiko Prospex, by the way, Prospex means professional specification, which is appropriate because this watch has its origins in a 1965 expedition to Antarctica by a Japanese crew. Seiko was the giant of Japanese watchmaking at the time, so it got the job of making a watch that could endure the harsh conditions of Antarctica. This is a watch you can wear up to 1,000 feet underwater. It always reminds me of a Japanese samurai warrior with all those different layers of metal and wood over them. It can take a beating and it can respond. So if you're looking for something that has that robustness, that strength, but at the same time you just want something that looks really striking, will grab people's attention, this is a great watch.
It is actually very complicated to move money around the world. Few companies can do it at scale. Few companies can do it in the number of countries that we do it. And so these companies that come together like MoneyGrams and like our competitors do really provide a very unique service, and that is to instantly move money, get funds from the United States to Mexico, literally in sub-seconds. For the ability to take $350 that you worked hard to earn and get it back to your mother so that she can pick it up in Mexico, use it for food, healthcare, housing, is actually a very unique service. If you're from many of the countries, Mexico, Philippines, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, some of the largest receive markets in the world, it's absolutely critical to the lives of the consumers in those countries. But many people don't appreciate that. If it's not the life that you live, then it's not something that you really ever really get involved in.
A new report in the New York Times this week illustrates the pipeline of Russian disinformation and how it spreads from the Kremlin all the way to America's right-wing media. Take Putin's claim that his invasion is to denazify Ukraine. Now, on its face, the smear is absurd. It's a lie, not least because Ukrainian President Zelensky is Jewish, and he has said the members of his family were killed in the Holocaust. But shortly after Putin's statement, right-wing media was already amplifying the disinformation.
The Nazis in Ukraine have not been banned by Zelensky.
There's a long history of the United States and our intelligence agencies funding and arming Nazis in Ukraine.
So it is true that there are groups with neo-Nazi links in Ukraine, most notably the Azov Battalion, formerly an independent ultra-nationalist militia, now part of Ukraine's armed forces. But like most conspiracy theories, promoters of the denazification myth take a grain of truth, then cast their own narrative around it. The echo chamber works in the other direction, too. Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn made headlines after he called Ukrainian President Zelensky